This lady walked in wearing a tracksuit, hair was all over the place. Everyone ignored her.
Which was how much?
I think it was £80,000.
Eric Christopher Hall, 30 years working for some of the most incredible brands in the industry, Dolce Gabbana, Burberry, Gucci and Chanel. Teams are perhaps overmanaged and it sort of restricts their creativity.
Everyone's under pressure from top down. A lot of store teams are being policed more than empowered. I can't remember the last time I walked into a store and felt that energy in the store. I can't. I really can't.
She went in to do a mystery shop and somebody, it took 15 minutes for somebody to acknowledge her.
They're just regurgitating these scripts. I was proposed a few months back to have an AI copy of myself as a retail manager. You don't have to visit the stores. It drove me crazy. This is exactly the problem.
Without them, no one else has a job. Today, I'm joined by the fabulous Eric Christopher Hall, who, with over 30 years of experience, is sitting down with me today to talk me through his incredible journey. This journey spans, like I said, 30 years working for some of the most incredible brands in the industry, Dolce Gabbana, Burberry, Gucci, and mutually Chanel. So super excited to really dig into what's led him to focus on a really incredible personal project for him, all around emotive retail. So Eric, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I always like to go right back to the beginning when I sit down with anyone, especially someone like you who's had such an amazing career working for some of the biggest brands in the industry. There'll be people listening to this that will be like, wow, on earth, how can I do that? But I know it didn't start easy for you, and it definitely didn't start in luxury. So no. Where did it all start?
I think firstly, if we start maybe with childhood, for example. So I was an incredibly shy kid, to be honest with you, very unconfident. My parents were older than most parents, let's say, of my friends at school, let's say. So at school, I was never one of the cool kids. I was always maybe in that little sort of quiet group in the class. And so, yeah, it was really a case of I was very shy, very unconfident, and I didn't really go out socially that much. So I didn't really have that human connection, those skills. I didn't really develop them until later on in life. So, so what actually happened was I think my parents were probably a little bit concerned. They were very protective. My sister and I didn't really go out that much. Really social. We weren't trapped. It sounds like we're trapped, but we weren't trapped. But my parents were very apprehensive, very nervous, and things like this. So, so I went through school, let's say college, things like this, and then it was my father's idea, if I recall correctly, that he thought it'd be a good idea for me to. He saw that they were looking for staff at Waitrose, or the supermarket. I was terrified. No, I couldn't do that. I was very shy, but they pushed me. Also, I was at the age where my parents didn't earn a lot of money. They wanted me to have my own money. They were probably struggling with me asking for money, to be honest. So they wanted me to go and earn my own wage, but also from a personal point of view, gain confidence with actually making friends, meeting new people and things like this. So I ended up working in Waitrose on the meat and fish counter, okay, which I don't normally, whenever I mention this, I don't normally tell many people in luxury retail, for example, this story. But it's where I gained a lot of confidence. My closest friends from here in the UK are the people that I met there. I'm having dinner with one tonight, for example. Many of them have gone on to do their own successful businesses, really successful businesses and big positions and things like this. So it's a great school. And that's really where I started with the client service. Let's say in Waitrose in those times, in John Lewis, there was so much training. If you came in I was studying, I was going there after studies in the evening, for example. I was working weekends. It was amazing buzz. It was just crazy at the weekends. I'd turn up on a Saturday and, Eric, we need you to jump on the counter. So that's when the first buzz, of human interaction, retail, that sort of thing. Learning new skills, learning discipline, work ethic, and working as part of a team. So it really started there. And like I said before, John Lewis was really, you had so much training with regards to customer service. I don't remember a lot of it now, to be honest with you. But I do remember, coming in and you're not on the counter this evening. You have to go upstairs to the training room and you're studying. So studying. So that's really where that side of things sort of started, to be honest with you.
So that was your first sort of toe dip into the customer service world. And as you quite rightly mentioned, it was an amazing school. And I don't know why you would say that you wouldn't normally share that story, because I think it's really quite humble. And it shows people that actually the experience that you gain from dealing with customers at any level is so relevant to luxury or anything in customer service. But you did obviously go on to have a career in luxury and move completely over to something different, which is fashion. So how did that come about?
So I was studying fashion promotion and illustration at university. So I was very creative as a kid. I was always probably a way of expressing myself. I was very shy. I was through drawing. I wanted to be a cartoonist. So I was constantly drawing, constantly showing people, look, probably looking for validation and things like this. Look what I've created. And then, so through art college, I was studying, art college, so to university with what I was studying. So one of these friends of mine from the Waitrose days, Ryan, and I haven't said this before to Ryan, but it's his fault why I got into luxury retail. So he's probably listening to this podcast. I need to say thank you to him. I think it was his uncle or his cousin was a retail manager for Joseph at the time, and he mentioned that they're looking for people. And Ryan was getting to know me. He didn't really know me that well. This group of guys that we were working together and going out for drinks in the evening, things like this at the local pub. He said, look, Eric, I think this would be good for you, considering what you're studying, your character now, which is, he didn't say it was coming out, but your character, they're looking for people. Why don't you go and do that? It terrified me, to be honest with you. Bear in mind, I was working in a supermarket in the suburbs to East Sheen. So, for example, this tiny little, I grew up around that area. So to work in central London was a big deal. To work in my mind, it was massive, which it was. So, I'll do the phone call. I plucked up the courage to call his number and speak to the manager of the concession of Joseph in Selfridges. And
I wish that was recorded. The manager was,
I always remember, and I said to her, and it's very typical me, I would talk myself out of the job. I was by saying, look, I work in a supermarket. I didn't say to her, I was a bit embarrassed I was cutting fish or meat. So I work in a supermarket. I kept it simple from what I recall. And she said to me, she said, Eric, if you can sell baked beans, you can sell clothes. I always remember that. And what that did was that actually straight away made me feel relaxed. It brought a smile to my face. Even thinking about this now, when I was preparing for the podcast and thinking about what to discuss, it brought a smile to my face. The manager was Josephine. I lost contact with Josephine. I don't know where she is now. I hope she's well. But she that dropped the guard. Straight away. I thought, why not? Let's throw myself into this.
Really good interviewer, actually, because for her to instantly make you feel relaxed, it just means then that you're able to get your real personality across instead of constantly being uptight, thinking, what's this person thinking of me? And trying to analyse.
This is on the phone as well, so I didn't even know what she looked like. And she invited me. She said, okay, come on, I think it was Saturday or something. Come here, have a trial day, like you used to do in those days. Come and have a trial day with us. See whether you like it, see what you think. Now, I've always had a very strong work ethic, but especially when on the floor. So I was there. I think I was relatively relaxed. I don't recall so much, but for sure I would have been very present on the floor. I would have been going around constantly folding things up in those days on the floor in Selfridges. But and they gave me the job. So they gave me the job, and very quickly, through probably responsibility and again work ethic and working with the team, I quite quickly became a supervisor for Joseph in Selfridges.
I honestly believe that some of the strongest skills that you can learn, not only for a career in retail but for life, are built on the shop floor. And I know this is something that we touched upon in our first ever conversation, but just from those first 2 early experiences, how much of that do you think has shaped you to where you are now?
To be honest with you, I mean, I think it's a lot, obviously. I love connecting with people. So the fact that I was gaining confidence, I think, is those few years of me working in Selfridges and where I went to after Joseph, for example, I was gaining confidence. I was coming out of my shell. Okay. So where I was this super shy kid, I noticed that, well, if you make somebody smile, if you take a genuine interest with people, you can connect with people, then it opens doors, basically.
So going from working in Waitrose, I mean, you weren't really selling baked beans because you were on the fish counter.
No,
so
selling salmon.
Selling salmon and king prawns.
Yeah.
But that first time where, you know, you got the job in Joseph and you sold something, you know, what was that like for you? How did you feel?
To be honest with you, I don't remember. And the way of selling in Joseph in those days, and I would say probably in Selfridges in those days, where I went on to afterwards, it was very, so, you know, from Joseph, I went to, I've always been headhunted as well, always been taken away. It's actually surprising. I've done very few interviews, or in 30 years, I've done very few applications for jobs.
Same. It's mad, isn't it?
Literally, I was always noticed, always served somebody with the same high level of service, but taking an interest in that person, which is probably refreshing to that person. Like, well, you've actually noticed me. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's I've lost the question now, haven't I?
Well, no, you haven't really, because it was how you felt. It was how you felt when, you know, you first sold something that wasn't in a supermarket. It was fashion.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, when I joined Selfridges, I felt cool. You know, I got, again, from where I grew up, to actually be on the floor in Selfridges with these cool kids. You know, the team that were there, and I'm in contact still with many of them. They were cool people, you know, super cool people. There was in Selfridges, you know, we're talking about the late 90s, you know, there were vibes, you know, London was buzzing, and I felt part of something, you know. It wasn't about the clothes. I felt part of a group of people. We were bouncing off each other. The energy were bouncing off each other. And so it was just great to be there. Selling the clothes, I don't recall.
Do you think that's what gave you confidence?
Yeah.
That feeling cool? Because you go back to saying that you were quite a shy kid, and being pushed into retail was to help you. Yeah. So your dad had the right idea. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think with regard, I mean, I've got that mentality. Don't tell me that I can't do something. Okay. And I get that a lot from my childhood, because I think, you know, my mum, bless her, she was always not really a risk taker. She wasn't really, you know, she worked incredibly hard for us, the best upbringing, but she was always quite fearful, you know, so she'd like to don't take a risk, stay in your lane type thing, you know. And my father was probably, at least he would not do that, you know. So he probably helped me a lot there, pushing me. I'm sure my mum obviously as well. She was pushing for that as well. She was incredible. But I always remember that from my dad's side of, you know, for me to push me. And it's exactly, I mean, throughout my career, I'll always take risks, and I'll always try and push the barriers. And this is what's also helped me help others. Help people realize that you can do much more than you realize. I'll always be a protector of the underdog. You know, so if somebody is in the team, and I used to go crazy if I hear that person, that person's not so good. You know, we're not sure how long that person's going to stay with us or things like this. Give them to me. You know, I will look into it, and I'll try and dig deep and at least help them find a way to improve themselves, though. You know, so.
Would you say that that's something that you had naturally because of the way you were brought up that perhaps others didn't have? Like within the teams that you were working in?
Humility. I mean, just I came from a background where I wasn't a privileged background in any way whatsoever. We weren't poor, but we weren't, but no special treatments, no special advantages, very, very human. So I think it would be an advantage for me to actually, every single person that worked with me, even now, if I walked into the office, in the corporate office, for example, I would always go, before I start work, I go around and say hello to everybody. A tap on the shoulder. It doesn't happen anymore.
Do you know, it's so funny. The person I interviewed recently is the head of people. She's people and culture director. I just introduced you to her outside. I asked her a question around what impresses you most about a workplace culture. And she said exactly that, where that is embedded in culture.
It costs nothing.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's genuine. It's genuine to go around and take an interest in people. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, have a coffee, and then you start. But the fact that you've actually taken 2 seconds out to actually look somebody in the face and ask them how they're doing, and if they need any support, or, step out of your office and just see how your team are doing, it's fundamental.
And I think it's amazing that we're really turning things around in industry now for that to be so important. For years it didn't. And I think that's where I want to go back into now. Obviously, both you and I worked in what I would like to call the golden age of retail, luxury retail.
Yeah.
So you moved, so your first real toe dip into the world of luxury was in Joseph and Selfridges.
Yeah.
I love Joseph. But then you've gone on to work.
Now, yeah?
It really is. But when, you've then evolved, and you said just before that you've never actively really applied for a job.
No.
So what happened next? How did you then move on from Joseph?
So
what was that
basically,
transition?
so I spent the first part of my career developing in Selfridges, the department store. So, but I went from Joseph, I went to Prada Sport, the concession back then, and then I went to Miu Miu. So I was always taken. I was noticed, okay, come and work with us. And it wasn't like they're looking for somebody, let me apply for the job. Never did it. It's always about great service, presence on the floor, good energy. And you never know who you are serving. You never, ever know who's in front of you.
Absolutely. What I really like, Eric, I'm just going to interject. I always get told off for doing this, but when I think of something, I have to say it. I had a conversation with a client recently about this, and as a business, as a recruitment business, we don't really advertise. And the reason that we don't, and the reason why we treat every search in a real executive search, headhunting way, is because, like what you've just said, the best people are not usually applying for the jobs because they're too busy being great on the shop floor, doing their job. So I just had to highlight that in what you just said, because it is still true to this day that passive job seekers are the ones that are usually the best talent in the market.
Completely agree. It's not, plus there's a lot of competition. I mean, if you're applying for a job, I mean, you know better than me how many applications and things like this, but it's, it's something that I've always done. I've always taught, said, look, just give your best of yourself and your best service to every single client that walks in through the door, and make magic. Simple as that. You never know who's going to come in. That's how I moved on from. So I went from Selfridges. I went from Selfridges. I went to Dolce Gabbana in Bond Street. So again, it was the store manager previously of Miu Miu in Bond Street who knew of me. She heard my name. We'd never met. But obviously, you had the Miu Miu concession that was connected to Miu Miu in Bond Street. She became store director of Dolce Gabbana, needed to strengthen her team. And then I was invited to go and speak to them. I remember speaking to her, but I remember more speaking to a gentleman called Robert Sadore. And Robert's still an icon in Dolce Gabbana. He's still there. I saw him last 2-3 weeks ago. And he's the one who I remember speaking to him, and we still speak to each other relatively often. But that was the big step for me. It's a big, great in the department stores, but when you step into a flagship store, that's when I really learned luxury retail, if I'll be honest with you. Going back to what you asked me before about my first sale of product, in the days of Selfridges in those days, it wasn't really It was more point. You know, I want this. You find the size, you give them, they join the change room, you wrap it up and they go. You know, that was the same in Joseph. That was in Miu Miu. I mean, you're just facilitating the sale. It wasn't really, in those days, we weren't really being completely inspirational on the floor and things like this. Dynamics were a little bit different. Maybe I didn't have the skills in those days either, because at the beginning of my career. Joining Dolce Gabbana, completely different story.
So what hit you when you joined Dolce, you know, that you thought, wow, I need to up my game here?
I mean, as you said before, it was the golden time. So apart from everyone was beautiful in the store. The team were incredible. I mean, everyone looked impeccable, very glamorous. The client advisors as well as the clients coming in. You know, we were on Bond Street. I remember in my first week serving Rod Stewart, for example. I was like, well, you know, sent me out for a banana. He wanted a banana.
What happened there?
Oh,
I saw that in my notes and I was like, okay, well, I've got to dig in a little bit.
I was joking with Robert about this. We were reminiscing when I saw him a couple of weeks ago. And he was there with Penny. And Penny was in the fitting room, Rod was there. And I was floating. I don't think I was serving, but I was helping the department manager at the time. And he needs a banana. So I ran and bought a banana. I think it was Pret a Manger probably nearby. And brought the banana back. And that's what I remember. But Dolce days were incredible. I mean, you styled. You know, I went from Dolce Gabbana in Bond Street, working, you know, with a great team there, with the Italians. You know, so I started to learn the Italian culture. I thought they were crazy. I thought, these Italians drive me nuts, and now I live there. But so I went from there. I went to Sloane Street, and there were so many celebrities there. It was the Beckham time, so if the Beckhams came, the whole of Bond Street was a standstill, paparazzi, all this sort of thing. So this is incredible. But I think the thing from Dolce Gabbana was you just styled. You created total looks. You didn't need a lookbook to teach you how to do it. You didn't need these training sessions. I mean, you had the introduction to the collection, don't get me wrong, and things like this. But then it was, and then maybe I think we had daily briefings where it was just fun. You know, you just try on the pieces, or okay, you got 10 minutes to go and create an outfit, something like this. But apart from that, you just wanted to sell. You wanted to give the best experience to the clients that came in, and so you became artists. You know, and I always say this to, you know, at the end of the day, a store is, the client advisor is an artist. The paint is the product. The store is a canvas. Just go and have fun and paint. And that's what we did in Dolce Gabbana. We just created total looks. We didn't realize what we were doing. We just did it naturally. So that was a massive school for me. I've never been a top seller because I had more, let's say, leadership traits that were coming out. You know, quite often the top client advisors they're a bit more aggressive, they're a bit more focused. They're not necessarily, not saying they're not interested in the team, but when they see the opportunity, they go. Whereas I was a bit more standoffish and looking across.
It's weird that you say that, because often when I meet candidates, I say to them, where do you see yourself and where do you see your progression? Do you want to go down the route of management and people, or do you want to go down the route of, you know, VIP clients? And it's almost being more entrepreneurial, I would say.
Yeah.
And there really is, it's very, very rare to find somebody who is both.
Yeah.
Who can manage people really well and, you know, lead a business, if you like, as a manager, and then someone who can really focus on the clients and the sales piece. It's something that even, you know, during my career, I always sort of struggled with which route I'd want to go down. I mean, now I work in recruitment, so I'm dealing with people all day long, but, you know, it is quite unusual to find somebody who's got both traits. I think,
I personally don't think I know any managers who were top client advisors. Personally, if I think of all the people I know, great service, you know, but they took much more passion and interest in facilitating and supporting and driving many people at once to achieve the best what they can do. I can't think of one, to be honest with you.
So how long were you at Dolce & Gabbana for?
I think it was 4 or 5 years. Basically, I'd moved to Sloane Street. So basically, I got borrowed by the store manager of Sloane Street, and then she didn't want to give me back.
No, I can imagine.
So she kept me, which again, Bond Street is very different to Sloane Street in those days. Still probably now as well. It is. But then the same thing. I worked with my selling technique changed in Dolce, first of all, and it changed overnight. So, and this is something again which really helped me a lot with when I transmit this to all the people I work with afterwards. And there's a guy called Stefano Galli, who, again, he's massive. He's the best. He's the one person that, if you work with Stefano Galli, everyone will say the same thing. Incredible. So much passion for Dolce Gabbana. But he is, if you see him on the floor with clients, he's a complete artist, a complete magician. And we did a trunk show in Sloane Street. And so you got these best clients that were coming in, and they, the top clients were invited. I think there was a show in Bond Street, there was a show in Sloane Street. We had all this special setup. I didn't really know Stefano. We had the daily briefing that day. He did it in his own typical style. I won't say what he said, but typical Stefano style. But straight away, he gave energy to the team. Wow, yeah, let's do it. But if you watch him in action, he would float, or he'd be watching, observing the floor. He would, I was this young client advisor just looking in awe of this person. He would float across like this, across the floor, look at a client on the floor that was maybe talking with a friend, and then pick up the item that he thought would suit that client, and he'd literally walk off and put it on their shoulder. But he would literally put it on their shoulder in such a way that it wasn't evasive, it wasn't uncomfortable. He knew exactly how to do it. And I always remember that thinking, wow, I can't do that. But I tried. And that, again, going back to confidence and self-confidence and believing in yourself, changed completely how I sold and how I taught selling afterwards to all the people I worked with afterwards. Because it was really, I remember that so much, and it's going to be in the book that I released. I spoke to Stefan and asked permission, but there was a fundamental time when completely like this changed how I sold. Incredible. And that same day, I did my biggest ever sale in Dolce Gabbana.
Which was how much?
I think it was £80,000.
Wow.
And again, it goes to show you never know who comes in. It was a lady. I drove me crazy when people walk in. You had a few client advisors that just look up and down at the person. No, I'm not gonna. Drive me crazy. Always.
It's that pretty woman thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
I remember when
absolutely crazy. You never know who's in front of you.
Never. I remember when I was first going to work in luxury, and it was Prada actually. I sat down and I told my dad I got this job, and was so excited. He goes, "I'm going to tell you something." He said, "You will never ever know who's capable of spending what. So think about that film and think about how wrong they were. So you should never ever act like that." And it always stuck in my mind. And similarly, I guess, to what you've just said, one of my biggest sales I ever made was to somebody who came in her slippers, who lived across the road. Yeah. So
yeah, they don't care. They're like, I don't have anything to prove.
No.
This lady walked in and she was, it's the kind of person you see on the street and wouldn't look at twice. I mean, she came in. I remember she was wearing a tracksuit. Hair was all over the place, if I recall correctly. Everyone ignored her, but you're my responsibility. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to give you the best experience. And she came in that whole buzz of the trunk show. There was movement. Took her upstairs. I think I gave her a glass of champagne for sure. And we were just having fun. And I said to her, "Look, this is fashion. Let's have fun. Let's try on some items." She was looking at this crystal dress, Swarovski crystal dress on the mannequin. Full length, pretty hardcore piece. But it's... and she looked at it and said, "Yeah, just try on." I didn't ask her. I did it. I just took it off the mannequin, Stefano Galli style. Bear in mind 2 hours before that, I'd seen Stefano in action. So I was a bit confident.
Hyped up for it.
I said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." So I took off the dress from the mannequin and she took it into the fitting. She tried it on. Obviously, she had the full look. She had the dress. Then we were selling chinchilla in those days, so we were selling. Got this fur coat, and threw it on her, Stefano Gali style, let's say, and throw it over the dress. At which point, her husband walked in again. Same thing, completely ignored when he walked in, looking for his wife. Are you looking for your wife? How is it? They would go inside the fitting room, and then they asked me, I opened the door, and they opened, and they said, how much is it? And I was like, okay, here we go. This is the killer, let's say, maybe. Because I wasn't confident, maybe. Had never sold a piece that expensive before. So, didn't batter an eyelid. They just said, look, there's something maybe a little bit here if we can fix this for us, as we've noticed, because they're all one-off pieces during the trunk show. So, Stefano helped me with that, and then in the end, we took the payment, and I remember her saying, I need to be quick because I've got my private jet. I need to fly back to Iceland. So I literally flew into to Knightsbridge to do shopping for the day from Iceland. And again, going on how I moved from Dolce Gabbana to Chanel, the same situation. I was on the floor. I remember we were short-staffed. I was on the ground floor in the old Sloane Street boutique. And I was serving 3 or 4 clients at once. Easy. It wasn't a problem, just keeping everyone happy. And the store manager, who we both know Monica, she walked into the store with a pair of sunglasses in her hand, Dolce Gabbana sunglasses. And obviously you make eye contact, you're juggling as such. And I found a moment where I could go and speak to her very quickly while the other ladies were okay. And she told me that she needed to prepare. I said, look, said, you trust me? Let me take the sunglasses from you. I gave her my business card. Okay. And I said, I'll call you back as soon as possible. I called her back within 30 minutes, I'm sure. And from that, she said to me, Eric, I'm the store manager of Chanel. Would you like to come and have a conversation with me? Which I did. And the rest is history. And in those days, especially even now, in those days, if you had Chanel on your CV, you're somebody. It's a big part of your career change, your development. It meant something on your CV. It still does, obviously, now. But in those days, especially, it was
the best.
It was the best. I mean, it was an incredible store. It was Brompton Road, so it was slightly different dynamic. It was a little bit younger. Obviously, in those days, by which time I knew quite a lot of the younger generation of wealthy clients around Knightsbridge that were shopping. So I think that was maybe an advantage as well to bring these people into Chanel if they weren't already. But that was an incredible. Again, it really changed my perception of leadership. Like so, in Dolce Gabbana, I'd worked my way up to department manager. I flew to Italy. I had my opportunity to work in Milan with Stefano and the other people to on a buying campaign, for example. So I had a taster of Italy. I had a taster of corporate life as well, a little bit taster. But then I wanted to go to Chanel and experience something new. And the one thing I really remember about Chanel was the trust. I think would be the word. You weren't, and this is nothing against Dolce Gabbana, but in there's many brands where, you've got, sometimes you're policed. Yeah, we're a great team in Dolce Gabbana, but still you're 2 minutes late for lunch, from lunch, or you need to wait until your coffee break. Maybe that moment you're a little bit tired for whatever reason. There's nobody on the floor, but we had to wait for our break time to go and have break and things like this. In Chanel, it was obviously the rhythm was quieter, from what I recall. It wasn't.
It was quality
over quantity.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's a different scenario. But the managers were there, but they weren't there. In a sense of you were on the floor. You knew what you had to do. Nobody left the floor empty. Everyone was in position. Everyone gave the best service to the clients that came in. Impeccable service.
I think she was a really special manager, Monica.
Monica was very client.
she was incredibly client focused.
Yeah,
I mean, she went on to do that, didn't she? She was head of VIP towards the end.
Monica was very human. Very, Monica.
The ultimate, I would say.
Yeah.
So what you're saying about, where you said before about a manager who doesn't have both, I think where Monica was so different is that she hired people around her to delegate really well, so that she could still really focus on the client.
Absolutely.
And I mean, obviously it was a different time, but I remember just watching her and thinking, I want to be like that, and
Absolutely.
she really inspired me.
And that's trust, again, trusting, empowering, knowing your team, which I think is lacking quite often, I think, in retail now. It's we talk a lot about knowing your client, but the thing I always used to say is, how well do we know your team? How well do the leadership, the managers on the floor really know the team? If you need to, maybe going a bit off track here, but performance-wise, if you need to make a difference performance-wise with a team, or you need to know, apart from dashboards and KPIs and reports, but the human element of actually being on the floor and watching your team, and knowing the person, knowing their weaknesses, their strengths, what's going on in their life outside of work, without being a therapist or, but you need to.
But Monica did that really well.
Yeah.
Like,
Monica
really
was,
well.
One thing that came into my mind is Monica was like a mum for me. In fact, Monica had, she was there. Again, you had the other managers as well, absolutely, but Monica was there. She's very human. We've spoken, I think it was a year ago now, and she told me where she is now and her family and things like this. But it was very, very warm. She was always available to come and have a chat and things like this. And she
created this real family feel, which I don't think is, it's very rare to find that now in retail. But she created that.
Absolutely.
So you left Chanel.
Yep.
And the reason why I know that is because I replaced you. You left in May of 2007.
I remember coming into the store, I think, and seeing you on the floor.
And I joined.
Yeah.
Must have been within weeks of each other. So we never actually worked together, but we worked with pretty much the same team.
Yeah.
And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that this is the first time we're sitting down and actually having a proper conversation, because your name was spoken about so much for years on. Whether that was where people had sort of inherited clients of yours, etc. But, there was always really fond memories of you being in that store. And I was there for another however many years after that. So it's amazing, really. And then you moved. Yeah, well, absolutely. But you're saying, obviously, that moving to Chanel was the epitome in those days, which I definitely felt when I felt so privileged to go and work there. But you left there to go to Italy. To go. Yeah. I think whoever leaves that store goes on to bigger and, much bigger and better things, I would say, because there's nowhere really else to go that's a sideward step from when you're at Chanel in Brompton Cross. It was,
and I remember when Monica knew that I was going, and they said to me, look, one phone call, if you want to carry on working for Chanel in Milan, one phone call and you're in. So, and I remember going to Milan, I walked into the store, beautiful store, Via Sant'Andrea. It's been changed now, but I didn't feel the same vibes. Nothing against the brand or anything like this, but again, exactly what you said before about Monica and what she created in Brompton Road and the vibes. And probably also I felt that I needed a change. Always somebody who wants to learn and meet new people and new brands and learn from where I work out. I've done the Chanel thing. Okay. What else can I learn? What else can I do? So yeah, transferred to Milan. Didn't speak Italian. So again, I go back to working at Dolce Gabbana with these crazy Italians, and I was like, God, these people drive me crazy. They're so loud. Bear in mind I was quite a quiet person, quite reserved. Well, not reserved, but I definitely wasn't Italian. But but good fun. And then all of a sudden I'm living there. So
how was that? It must have taken you right back to that, shy, introverted.
Yeah, I think I was a bit too cocky, maybe, a bit too confident, if I'm being honest with you. Best lesson I ever learned was to move to another country. Again, out of my comfort zone.
How old were you?
Oh God, now you're asking me. It was 2007, so I don't know, I was in my late 20s, mid
It's
to late
quite
20s.
late, really, because when we meet people now that come over, they're usually really young, so they adapt really quickly. That's a time where, it would be quite challenging to adapt, but you obviously did it really well.
I made my mistakes, but it's. I mean, I moved there, started a family, and things like this. But it's one. I've never been a good student. Okay, so I hated studying Italian. I hated it. So I think I did about a month. I think I did about a month of lessons. And then I just threw myself. I had to go and throw myself into a job. So I walked into Burberry, the Burberry flagship store in Via Verdi, Milan at the time.
Found the British brand.
Yeah, I remember I had an interview. So bear in mind, I didn't really know how to do interviews in Italian as well.
Did you have to interview in Italian?
Yeah. Of course. So God knows what I said. But I remember doing the first interview that I had was not with Burberry. It was another brand. But the offer. So the offer of the job was so lowly paid, but really, really low. And I thought, well, I need to look for something else. I walked into Burberry and I gave them my CV. And there's a lovely guy there who's gone on and done great things as well, who took my CV in. And basically within a couple of hours I received a phone call. I think I was still floating around Milan, to be honest with you, because I had nothing to do. I was floating around and probably having a coffee and another coffee and another coffee. And I received a phone call to come and speak to them. Don't remember that interview whatsoever. But I got an offer very, very quickly. So I think they saw my CV, they saw British guy, British brand, all the brands that I'd worked for before, what I'd done. Let's get him in. So straight away I was in on the first floor in that store, quite a long corridor. And that was where Burberry Prawson was. So I was part of a very small team, initially selling in my broken Italian, and I apologize to any clients I insulted in those days, the first ones. I know I did a couple of times. I got called into the office asking me what I said, and but you look, that's how you learn. That's how you learn a language. You have to make mistakes. So I don't think I did anything too dramatic.
But it must have been quite nice, really, for them in Italy to have, a British guy. They're quite authentic for the brand, as we would walk into Dolce Gabbana or Prada here and be greeted by an Italian native. Yeah. It's lovely. It's quite authentic for the brand and for the experience as well.
It was, again, when I got confident and I was working with a team in Prawson, amazing collection. It was my baby. Prawson was my baby. We had Christopher Bailey, who would in those days before it switched to London, they were showing in Milan. So his showroom was behind. You bump into him maybe. So I felt a connection, to that brand. Burberry was an incredible school in those days. It was we had Prawson. We did Art of the Trench. We were doing Burberry Acoustic. So we had the bands playing in the store. These British people coming and playing, and don't worry, I'm with them. They're with me. So I was like
Oasis coming rocking up. In the middle of the store.
It was like I was looking after these people in the store because I got them. I knew what they want. I was helping the Italians with what these British people wanted. Or people from HQ would come in, or Angela would come. We'd do the store tour with Angela, or these various people who I'm in contact now still from the Burberry HQ days. I connect. It was Burberry culturally. There was a massive culture. I felt part of. I felt that British representative for the brand in Milan. So that was for many years. Incredible times. Great school.
So you've worked for some of the most extraordinary brands actually in the world. Still to this day, they're considered that. But what do you truly think constitutes to a truly memorable luxury service?
Acknowledgement of the client, to really see the client, I think is really the word I'm looking for. I always used to say that the best client advisors are the ones the clients will walk out the door, they don't even know what happened in a positive way. So it's not in a transactional way. You know, it's when I work or teach with teams on the floor, Lulu, my daughter, I use her as a, you know, my daughter could sell. If a client walks into the store and says, I want this, she could go and do that, wrap it up. And it's not, for me, that's not.
It's facilitation.
Yeah, you're facilitating the sale. Yeah. I'm more interested in magic. You know, I'm more interested in seeing people create, going back to the artist, you know, show me what you can do. Have fun. It's fashion. So, you know, it's if you can connect, if that client advisor can connect with that person that's come in and give them the best experience in that store, and they walk out feeling good, you know, and for me, it's not about the product. It's not about the product. If I take it back to the baked beans example, you know, which it's not about the product. If it wasn't about me selling, if I could sell anything, you know, Dolce Gabbana days, we sold the whole store. There was none of this, we can't sell today because we haven't got the best sellers in store. We find something else to sell. You know, the palette, the product in the store is the palette. Go and create.
I don't think brands, I don't know, in your opinion, do you think brands now truly recognise that when it comes to their training and development to really find that magic? Because I find that that's quite difficult to teach.
It's passion. It's passion. I think it's very, you need, well, I think first of all, you need those people that can do that. So one word that I use a lot is catalyst. You need the catalyst in the store. Those catalysts normally, quite often, should be the managers, the leaders. They're the ones that make things happen. But you've also got the talents in your team. You've got your client advisors that can make the difference. If you need to do budget, if you need to do your target, you need your catalysts on the floor. The catalysts are the one that create the energy in the store. They're the ones that you can, again, I take a lot of references from hospitality, but I take a lot of references from sport. You know, a sports team, if something's not working, you change it. You put the catalyst on to make a change. So going back to the idea of, you know, the point of the train, I find quite a lot of training is quite generic. It's quite copy and paste. It's almost restricting creativity. You know, I think sometimes in those days, in my past, when I learned, no one really trained you how to style. You styled.
Do you think then now, because I've seen this quite often, that teams are perhaps overmanaged or micromanaged and it sort of restricts their creativity? I think it's a chain of things, to be honest with you. I think about it. I think there's everyone's under pressure from top down. Everyone's under pressure. So I think a lot of store teams are being policed more than empowered. Okay. You need the leadership teams of the stores to be able to empower, to be able to motivate, to be able to inspire. But who's motivating, inspiring these people, first of all? Yeah. Which I think is fundamental. If you're constantly under pressure and you start doubting your confidence, you close up. And you start, and then maybe if that happens, and again, if teams are constantly under pressure, you get into this whole cycle where you lose confidence, maybe. You know, so how do you expect that person there who's maybe starting to feel a bit unsure of themselves, maybe doesn't, you know, how do you expect them to then go and authentically motivate and inspire their team to believe that they can actually perform? Do you think you can feel that? You can feel a leadership style as soon as you walk into a store now? Yeah. It's if you go, and it's unfortunately recently, I mean, I've been in Bangkok. I've been researching a lot. I was in Bangkok. I've been in London a few times. Obviously Milan. I mean, I travel a lot. And for me, the energy that you walk in, I mean, that's what I do. The energy that you walk, and the energy starts from outside of the store, first of all. It's something that I call the lure, for example. So it's basically, it's the goldfish bowl. You know, what does that store look like? What is the energy that's coming out from the store before you even go in? That gets overlooked a lot. If you see people resting over the counters with their phones in their hand. Oh, I can't stand it. But happens everywhere, you know.
you're already affecting your traffic. Because some clients won't go in that. Or if it looks like there's a group of people huddled together,
It's intimidating.
it's intimidating. So in this time when there's no traffic or very little traffic, you're already restricting your traffic. You don't even realize it. I used to take whole teams out of the store and looking in. They'd never done that before. Are we allowed to do this? Yeah, I'm telling you, you can do it. You're with me. Look in. What do you see? Now we get it. So that is fundamental. And then when you walk into the store, any CEO of any brand, any top management, you go in and the first thing that you want to feel the energy. And the energy is created by people. And for me, that's the leadership. The leadership is, the energy of a store is a reflection of the leadership. Now, I'm not talking badly about leadership here. Leadership, they're under pressure because they're overloaded a lot with reporting and they're under pressure for so many different things. They're almost very difficult for them to be on the floor. It's not easy. It's a situation right now where I think we need to really reduce the complexity, really think about what we're doing. It's like, well, we need these people on the floor.
Strip it right back again.
Retail's easy. Retail is not that complicated. It's very simple. I mean, I didn't hear the word KPI until I mean, again, I'm not against KPIs or anything like this, just to make it clear. You need the data, you need the analysis. But there's very few people, I think, that, okay, you've got this data, and so what? What are you going to do with it? I would just send it to the store. Oh, that person reads the report. If you don't have, you need the catalyst, you need the people that can get that information.
And make the magic from it.
Yeah. Make the team understand how to use that. And more than that, make it sexy. Because it is, believe it or not, it is quite sexy. But if you get into it and you really can get into it, now I understand why that person. But you need that human connection. It's not just about data. You need to also think, okay, I've got the data. Let me see what's actually happening on the floor. Put it together, make magic, and now I know what's going on. I know my team now. Now I know my team. I know how to make it perform. I know how to empower them, and I know how to get them interested and realize how I can help them. But also that gives confidence to them, gives confidence to the manager, because I did that. I did that. But if you think of especially my journey, I learned analytics on the job. I started using Excel I never studied Excel. I studied art. I'm creative. I'm a creative problem solver. Never touched Excel. Hate it.
Well, I'm allergic to it, so
I'm allergic.
So happy to meet you.
But we expect people to be. We expect people, let's say store managers, for example, to be. They're these massive business owners, which is correct. They own a lot of. They own an important business. They need to be able to read the data, understand it, but they need support. They need a lot of support, but there also needs to be respect. And I think it's also, for HQ teams as well, there's a massive opportunity for them to learn from the stores, which they don't do.
Well, I think we said this, didn't we, when we first spoke, and that was that, the most important people are, for any retail business or fashion business, retail essentially, are the ones on the floor, because you get everything firsthand from them. Everything can be learned from them. What's going on? You're hearing things from the horse's mouth. They're the one interacting with the client. So
they're front line. They're the ones that they're the ones that create the wages.
That's right. Without them, no one else has a job essentially.
Yeah. So you need to they need to be, again, I go back to sport. I go back to, they need to be in their optimal state to perform.
Yeah.
If I use football, for example, okay, a football team will, let's say the Champions League final, that's your one day on the store. That 90-minute match is a normal day in the store. That team has done all the training during the week. They know exactly what they need to do. They've been briefed, okay. The football manager, when they play, that football manager is not on the pitch. They've conveyed the message. They know exactly what they need to do. They've got the vision. They've been fully trained. Go on the floor and dance. Go make magic. Go and perform. Go and sell. That manager has trust in their team, if that manager's done their job and they're given the freedom to do the job and the trust and the empowerment to actually prepare their team, they'll go and perform. And in my days of working on the floor, especially in the Gucci days, for example, that's what we did. Like I worked with an incredible team of managers on the floor in Gucci in Monte Napoleone. We were there during I went from Burberry, we've skipped, but I went from Burberry to Bell staff, where I was given, I worked many years in Burberry, great school. Then Bell staff came, I worked with them. They gave me, freedom to experiment and develop my various ideas and visions and things that we could do to improve the business.
What position were you recruited in at
Store
Bell?
director.
Okay.
So I went from store director. They gave me a great opportunity, more or less blank piece of paper, to be honest with you. It was, we went from a store that's, my assistant store manager was in that company for many, many years. He was incredible, especially with clients. I mean, every key client of that store came for him. And he, even now, he's gone on to be a store director of another brand.
Did you inherit him, or did you?
I inherited him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I inherited a team.
Okay.
A great small team, and it was a very small store. But we had positive business. We really had a positive business in the first year. Then the second year, exactly the same. That was another great learning curve because, and it's quite funny because it was almost like I felt like a genius in Bell stuff because, oh wow, how did you do that? Oh wow, that's a great idea. I wasn't doing anything. It's because Burberry had been such a great school before. So it's everything that I was, let's say, leveraging on from experience, but adding my own element onto it.
Did you progress to management level in Burberry before you moved over?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to just dig into a bit of that because you joined Burberry, you didn't speak Italian, you just about scraped through an interview, you did really well, clearly.
Yeah.
But that progression, over the fact that you're working in and amongst Italian people, essentially a foreigner, how was that process for you?
So again, with Burberry, I was department manager for Prorsum. Then I moved. Then I became late. We opened the new flagship store, the mega flagship store on Monte Napoleone. At the time, it was huge. I mean, many floors, beautiful. Big opening party with Christopher and Angela. And then I became ladies' wear manager, and I was also working as Burberry private clients as well. So for one moment, when I went to the new store, I was actually doing Burberry private clients. So I was working only by private appointment. I was becoming almost like a client advisor again. I hated it. Okay, because again, by which point my leadership traits were really becoming stronger. I had much more impact helping everyone else on the floor with their sales, especially the new joiners and things like this, than actually having to actually sell again, So and then I became the ladies' wear department manager. Okay. I was on there 5 or 6 years. And then I went and funny enough, I had an assistant in those days, and I would never ever pick up a phone from a headhunter. I was so loyal to the brand, very professional. If I want to speak to me, they can send me an email. They can contact me on LinkedIn. I don't even think we were using LinkedIn so much then, but they can send me an email. They'll find a way. If it happens, it happens. And then what happened was that my assistant...
Playing hard to get then.
I was being a bit cocky maybe, but no, I wasn't really. But then I remember that Monica, my assistant, said, there's Mrs. somebody on the phone for you. Now, if it's a client, I'll pick up the phone, obviously. They were very clever. So I picked up the phone and I remember saying, look, we've been trying to get hold of you for months. We think you'd be a good fit for us. You're British. We're a British brand. Would you like to come and have a chat with us? If I hadn't have taken that call, I wouldn't have done Bell stuff. Bell stuff again was, they were changing. They were in heavy investment to change the brand to try and make it more upscale. So I was part of something. I've always been a part of something. So I was a part of that, representing a British brand, as a British person in Milan, in the Milan flagship. Good fun. I mean, it was a completely different experience. Smaller store, different traffic was in Via delle Spighe very, very low. But we made a difference in those, we made a difference. We closed positively both years. We developed the team, we developed the training, and they've all gone on and the store closed, and then they've all gone on and done their thing now. So it's good. And then basically what happened was so one of the most influential person in my career was a guy called Gianfranco. So Gianfranco Fina, okay. And I met him in Burberry. We worked together, etc., etc. He went to the US, and then there were rumors that he was coming back. So there were rumors that he was coming back to Milan, and he wanted to build a team for Gucci Montenapoleone. So he took me into Gucci Montenapoleone as the clienteling manager. I didn't have a clue what clienteling was, because you did it. You didn't have a fancy title.
That word I feel like it's quite new. I would say in the last 10 years, everyone talked about clienteling.
Yeah.
Before, when I was in retail, it was never even a word that was ever used. Yeah. It was just, you just did it.
No, exactly. I mean, but like everything, I mean, in retail, you just do it.
It wasn't a specific task. It was just your job to do it. Yeah.
So I went in as clienteling manager. The main thing was because I was so client focused, and I even remember him saying that I don't want you to touch the product. You're not selling. You do not touch the product. I want you to work with the team, inspire, motivate them with regards to clienteling. Bear in mind, in those days, this is 2016, I think it was, 2016. So this was the peak of Alessandro Michele. This was the peak of Bizzarri. This is Jacopo Venturini. All these people were, you had to be the best. You had to be, the store had to be impeccable at any moment. Obviously for the clients, obviously for the client experience, but also because you never knew who was going to come in from HQ, so we're always heightened. We're always
constant spotlight.
Yeah. We were the brand. We were the store. We were breaking records all the time. So I went in there as clienteling manager. I go to a client advisor. Okay, how many clients have you got? I don't have any clients. How long have you worked here for? And they've been there for, some client advisors that were working there, and they're still there now, that have been there for many, many, many years. But they didn't have any clients. They could tell you everything about the product. Everything.
Do you think that was a confidence thing?
It was just clienteling was very new then. They would say to you that they didn't have, there were some that obviously did have clients, but many of them said that they just didn't have clients. It didn't click.
So they do the facilitation piece.
Yeah.
Because we talk about that a lot, actually, and it's about how, anyone can work in retail.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right? Yeah. If you go into a department store now, some of the biggest brands, client walks in with a picture of what they want, and it's just, wrap it up and process a payment. And there's no follow-up. There's no...
finish is there.
That's it.
There's no vision, no awareness of, or what's the benefit of it? Why do we do it?
Yeah.
So we had to, there was a great team there. And the great thing about it, and this is, in those days, there was, clienteling was it. That was, it still is, but it was really the beginning of it. We had a budget to be creative. Okay, so we built the culture, we were building the culture of clienteling in Gucci, throughout all the stores, but in that store especially, and we were focusing on the importance of private appointments, the focus on why we were doing it. But most of all, I think then over time I was very fortunate to be ever given a small team for me, my clienteling ambassadors. And they were, if I think of Will Guidara, Unreasonable Hospitality, I don't know if you've read it, but he has his, like, I think they're called magic makers or facilitators, the ones that help to create these special private appointments in the store. So you'll find many brands quite often they're quite generic with the gifting. It's a client's birthday. Do you want to give them flowers? What if I don't like flowers? You know?
Absolutely.
And there was that, but we also had the option of, and I would be there, but more so my ambassadors would be there to stimulate the client advisor to be a bit more creative and think, oh, what do you actually want to achieve with this relationship? You know, where are we going with this relationship? What do you, how do you want this client to feel?
And you have to be adaptable. And I think, you know, to be a really great sales associate, client ambassador, whatever the title may be, if you are clienteling, you have to be a chameleon. You have to be able to adapt yourself to each individual person so that they feel seen and heard and valued.
Take an interest.
Yeah. And that word that is, again, going round and round and round when we talk about retail at the moment and what is a non-negotiable when recruiting, etc. It's the curiosity, genuine curiosity. So when you were doing that role, you know, you had this team of people. How on earth did you teach this skill?
I don't think I taught it. I think I just, I'm thinking back now. I mean, I was very much on the floor, very present on the floor.
So leading by example.
Leading by example, but not just me. I mean, again, a great team of managers in the store. We were working together. So much fun, you know. So we created the energy in that store. There was energy anyway. You know, there were traffic coming in. We had to manage it. You know, it was 3 doors, 4 floors, small team, skeleton team at the beginning, and then they reinforced. But you had to manage that. You know, it was during Fashion Week, probably near enough 1,000 clients coming into the store during Fashion Week.
Yeah.
So we had to manage that, but we had to create the energy. We had to manage the queues. We had to know which private appointments were coming in that day. We needed to make sure that they were fully prepared for it. They were something I call the 3 Ps for planning, preparation, and performing. So you know, using time to your advantage. Again, my ambassadors would be working with that, knowing how many appointments we've got coming in. Okay, Eric, who's the client? What do we want to achieve? What are there any special anniversaries coming up? What would you like to give them? How do you want them to feel? You know, so then that encouraged the client advisors to actually, well, I don't actually know anything about this client. So therefore you knew that your next appointment, you need to do more discovery but authentically, you know. It drives me crazy when you've got these generic clienteling gifts, you know, and they're just sending them out without any.
There's no thought.
And many brands are doing it, whereas the brands that are really doing really well, I think, with clienteling are the ones that are encouraging people to be creative, to actually really, that's where
it's
the real
personalizing,
that's the
isn't
connection.
It? Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here now and I'm listening to you, and you've pretty much, you know, had to start again and again and again, you know, in all these different brands, and especially with that major transition where you moved to Milan from London, couldn't speak the language so much. There's just a word that's going round and round and round in my head right now, and that's resilience. And that's what I can see when I look at you and when I'm listening to you now. But do you feel that resilience is a skill or an attribute that is absolutely necessary when it comes to working in luxury retail?
Yeah, especially now. It's but not just luxury retail. I think in
life,
you know, and the thing that I've learned most, I mean, if I think of the biggest challenges in my career, and let's say it's probably two or three maybe.
What were they?
I think changes of leadership above me, you know, so you can be, so for example, I was always, I let's say coasted almost, you know, you get too comfortable, you know, so I coasted for many years. You know, coasting is probably the worst, the wrong word, but I was successful. I had my reputation. I was known as somebody who was professional, somebody who can make a difference, somebody who can rely on, you know. But then there's always going to be somebody who comes in, has a completely different vision, you know. Maybe you don't match, you know, and that's fine. That's completely fine. And it happened to me a couple of times. Very challenging, you know, because you think that you're a certain level, but then you realize that you're not, you know, then you realize where you need to improve. Then you realize where you start to develop a lot more your personal branding, your personal identity after let's say 30 years, you know who you are. I hope so. I know who I am. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. I know when I'm not in the right place, and I know when I'm. You build up that resilience, but every single challenge is an opportunity that has opened up many, many more doors afterwards.
What advice would you give somebody that perhaps is experiencing that now? Because there's a lot of change going on in the industry right now. So there could be somebody who in a very similar situation to what you've just described, where they've made a name for themselves, they've been in a particular brand or business for a while, really established, and then they're hit with a change of leadership that doesn't quite align with them. For somebody who has been through that, what advice would you give somebody?
I think first of all, be kind to yourself. Protect yourself. Be open. You need to be open for other views, other visions, other new ideas. You need to stick to. I think you need to be flexible and agile. You need to have your idea. You need to have your identity. You need to have your vision. That's very important after many years, if you're in your career. But you also need to be open to new ideas and new visions and learn from them. And also don't panic and be positive. I'm in contact with quite a few people who this has happened to recently, where there's a change that was maybe unexpected, for example. And I'm helping them and discussing it with them and just encouraging them, really. So look, see it as an opportunity. See it as an opportunity to step aside, reflect, identify who you are, what you want. But you have to also you can't be so close-minded and think that you know everything. You need to be really open you need to find the balance, in my opinion.
Whilst we're on the subject of giving advice, there's another question I want to ask you that I think would be really helpful for anybody listening to this now, that whether they're at the beginning of their career, in the middle, wherever they are, when it comes to clienteling, with that being a buzzword, because done badly, it can feel really performative and quite manipulative and almost fake and forceful. So if it's done properly, I believe it can feel, as we've just discussed, deeply personable and personal to that particular client. What would you say the key differences are from stepping away from the performative, manipulative way for it to be personal?
I think I'd go back to, if I asked you, for example, I presume that you get phone calls, you get messages, you get people approaching you, brands, companies. How often do you read the messages?
Well, all the time, really, but it's because I own a business. But it would be
so for example, let me rephrase it. So when I was using this example, I was doing the onboarding, for example, for Gucci. So I would be in Berlin, for example, or in Milan, and I would do the onboarding session for all the new joiners of Gucci, and there were so many onboardings. I think it was every 6 weeks, every 2 months, something like this. But I always used to ask them and said, think about an outreach, for example, is an opportunity to create something. Yeah, it's an opportunity you've got one shot to spark the interest in somebody, to take an interest and come back, come and visit you in the store and take an interest in your message. Nowadays, clients are overloaded with messages. Quite often they're very generic.
Yeah.
We're going into the AI world, and I personally don't look at any messages anymore, because that it's not authentic. There's no human connection there. And I know there's a lot of
you just see it as marketing material, right?
Clients are not stupid.
No.
Clients are not stupid, and I think we need to be careful of this, because quite often it's a copy and paste template. They're changing it, whatever it is. Great. With AI, obviously, of course, you've got we can't. AI is going to be incredible. We can't ignore that, but we need to balance it with the human element again. I think that again, client advisors are not stupid. If I go back to Chanel, for example, if you treat them like adults, if you treat your team like adults, they will work as adults. They have passion. They want to do this. If everything is done for the client advisor, where they don't need to really let's just do it generic. they've got time to do clienteling on the floor now. The stores are not busy.
No, that's right.
And everyone's saying we haven't got time to do it. We need a clienteling hour. No, they don't. If you walk into the store, it just needs to be leaders on the floor, that leaders that are free on the floor to actually organize it and take little groups of people off the floor or at the back of the store where they're not on, where they're not all out with their phones, but just give people the freedom to actually think about what they want to do. What is the message they want to send out to clients? But actually give them the chance to actually be creative and think about what they have to do. How do I want to feel? How do I want my client to feel when they open that message?
What's really amazing is that nowadays we meet so many people in the corporate world of fashion, okay? And hardly any of those people have actually started on the shop floor, whereas you made the move. And you've done what I would call the graft, right? So you made the move into a corporate function. What was that transition like for you? And how did it come about?
Again, I was given I was working as clienteling manager in Gucci. I was there, I think, for 2 years in the store. Then I was given the opportunity to step up and do the same role across Europe, basically. So I was doing the clienteling manager role for all the European stores apart from those in Italy and Paris and UK, if I recall correctly. Traveling every week, incredible. I mean, I was free and I was given freedom. I was trusted as well. That was the thing. I could choose where I wanted to go, more or less. These are the hot spots that you need to go to. These are the stores that need support. But it wasn't somebody telling me to go and do it unless it was really necessary. But it was more a case of I've got the responsibility and I will go and travel. First step into corporate, I remember this big shiny office with my name outside the door. So, okay, I like this, big desk, computer, my own office. Okay. It was weird because the rhythm was, the rhythm from, especially in those days, the rhythm from the store on the floor and the rhythm in HQ, completely different. I was bored. I wasn't bored, but I was sat there thinking, this is slow. I'm used to running around, doing things crazy. It was a lot slower to begin. I had to adapt, Again, HQ teams now is a lot different, but in those first days, this was very, very much the case. I think that I've considered my path very, very fortunate. Exactly, also for where I want to go afterwards, is that I'm from the floor. From where I've started to where I am now, I speak retail language. I understand. I don't know many people that have gone from the floor to corporate. Not really many. Okay, but
everybody wants to.
Do
a
they?
lot of people want to.
Yeah.
Yes. When I speak to people, they're like, I want to be in head office. I mean, look, it's amazing how you've done it. And that's why
I've been lucky. I've been lucky because I've made good impressions with people and I've built my reputation and people gave me the chance to actually show what I could do. So
I don't believe in luck so much. I believe that you make your own luck.
Yeah.
You're okay, obviously in the right places at the right times, but you made the impression and that comes down to the hard work that you clearly put in. So you moved into the corporate function. That was with Gucci initially.
Yes.
Right. And then you oversaw the European clienteling function. And then from there, you then went on to do a really big job for Prada, which again stayed within corporate. How did that come about? Because it's almost like doing a whole 360 move, because you started your luxury career pretty much, after Joseph with Prada. So that was...
So basically what happened was I was working again, and this is where we go back to change, So I was working in Gucci. I loved what I was doing. I was onboarding. I was training the new joiners. I was going back to, again, wanting to make an impact in my own way with the next generation of staff that were coming in. I would change the presentation more visual, going back to my creative roots. Again, I'm not the best student. I hate reading pages and pages of PowerPoint just for the sake of doing it. So no, I've got one shot. I've got 2 hours with these people. I want them to walk out going, whoa. Again, same as a client walking into the store. Whoa, that person just gave me an experience. So as much as possible, when I did the onboarding sessions in Gucci, for example, this is my thing. I changed I use simple imagery to get people to think, well, and people would stop me afterwards. Area managers say, well, what did you do? They've actually taken an interest in clienteling. I just connected. Most of the time I was talking about dating. Because, I was talking about dating. And when you connect with people and that you've got their attention, they actually say, they understood what I was trying to get across, and you've made an impact. And they've planted a seed in these people, and they go off to the stores. So, but then what happened was that, again, the job profile was changing, and it was becoming, I had to become much more analytical, okay? Or that was what was expected of me. I'd never been taught. I come from the floor. So, whereas before there were people that were much more analytical, that was their role in the store, and they would give me the material, and I go to the store and translate it, get people interested and take an interest in it to actually make a difference with the results, with the performance. But then I had to be a lot more pragmatic, a lot more analytical, and that put me in difficulty. That's not really, in those days especially, wasn't really me at that time.
Out of your comfort zone completely.
Out of my comfort zone completely. But I also don't quit. I will fight. I will, again, resilience. I will at least try. So again, that was a very difficult part of my, of my period with the brand. But at the same time, I'm very thankful for it, because I took in a different vision when I went to Prada. So I got pulled into Prada. I got invited to come into Prada to work under retail operations. We were a very, very small team at that time. And basically retail operations in Prada at the time was everything front of house, basically. CRM, events, team management, basically everything front of house. And I was asked to look after China and Asia Pacific, and this was during COVID time. So, I'd never worked with the Chinese culture.
Talk about throw you into the deep end, like.
I love it. I mean, It's great. I mean, it's great, but I couldn't visit as such because of COVID. And the thing is, I had that as the job title and things like this. But to be honest with you, I was given a lot more opportunity to create things. So to create various ideas and things like this, which I could, again, not really blank piece of paper. There were a few things that I did there that got integrated into parts of the training, for example. Or again, there was a change in Prada, and then they changed the job description, the job retail performance,
which seems more you, really. When I think about you and the career you've had, retail performance definitely is the person you are.
Yeah, but I need to be hands-on on the floor. I can. It's for me to make an impact. I'm somebody who goes again, and this is exactly where I'm going now. Where I'm going after Prada is really, I can go in and see exactly what's going on in the store very, very quickly.
So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
How do you think, leadership stands when it's led too far from the floor?
You need to. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It depends on how it's set up, of course, but there needs to be a strong relationship, a unity between HQ teams and retail teams.
Do you feel that there's a huge disconnect now?
Can be, yeah, it can be, and I think it's. I think also it's the culture.
So, bit of a them and us type of thing.
I think it's just a way of, again, reducing complexity. Like, what is the objective? And everyone's working in the same direction. The store leaders teams are freed up. Or really, what's happening in the store? How can I ensure that my store teams are in the optimum position to perform? What can I eliminate? Or what can all these different functions in the same company that are sending things separately without really being aware of what everyone else is doing and creating noise and pollution, where a store manager will probably never say no. Mm. They're scared to push back and say, do you know what? Raise my hand. I can't do everything. Okay. We're paying these people to lead a store. They should be able to say, there should be a safe environment where, do you know what, I want to do this, but I need help to put things into order, and or is this the best it can be? There must be ways of of different departments working together, deciding on what is the approach, and then filter down and just make sure that those store teams, when they have to perform, they're not disturbed.
I want to bring everything back into the now. Okay, so we connected obviously before I invited you to come here, because I was fascinated with the project that you're doing now, that you're writing a book. So I really want to talk about that, and I want to dig into it. And from what I understand, this all comes from this incredible experience that you've had, and how you've just described that you need to be with the teams on the floor and be very much involved in what's going on in the floor, and bringing the human element back to, what retail really is and what it really means to the customer. Yeah. So talk me through that.
I mean, I think it's really, let's say now I've left Prada, for example. Now the first thing, and even when I was with Prada, I wanted to reconnect with the stores. Even on my holidays, I wanted to be on the floor again. Obviously bear in mind that, let's say recently, there's many cuts in regards to travel budgets and things like this. I couldn't really travel, so I was dying in front of a PC. You're not getting the best out of me, so it was a case of, so what's happening now is really a case of, it's reconnecting humanity with retail again. I think there's a massive desire for it. I think it's so necessary. My writings that I've already written, I mean, my trips in Bangkok, I'm very opinionated. I've got my vision. I'm very, it's really connecting with a lot of people, online and offline. People that know me for a long time. I'm always, all the people that I know are mainly retail people, but maybe they don't have a voice. They're a bit fearful to say something. But I think there is a movement behind the scenes that's really building up now with myself and other people that really, do you know what? It could be so much better. It could be, you need to reconnect with humanity to really, again, retail is simple. Traffic is down. You need the best. The team needs to be in the best optimal situation to perform, but there needs to be a human element to it. We need to really inspire and motivate these young teams, to really, that we've got their back, that we've got, that they're protected, that there is a way of using all of the very, everything's very data driven, very KPI driven. We need that. That is fundamental. But KPIs are a result of the performance, So you need to focus on that human element of the to drive the performance. If we're not doing that, the results speak for themselves.
At what point did you make this decision to build Emotive Retail?
I think it's been something inside me for quite a while, to be honest with you. It was something that I'd say probably 2 years, to be honest with you, behind the scenes, sort of really feeling something. There's something not right. The way that it's going isn't me. The way that retail is going, it's not that it isn't me, but it's frustrating. You asked me before about the energy on the floor. I can't remember the last time I walked into a store and felt that energy in the store. I can't. I really can't.
Do you think that comes down to the pressure?
Pressure, for sure. It's the current climate, for sure. But I literally, there's a mixture of pressure, but also, maybe standards. I don't know. It's like I was in some of my travels really surprised what I saw. I thought in my day this would never. I'm so old now, but that's not acceptable. And then you wonder why the performance is down. So how can you pretend? If I was traveling around Bangkok, for example, I'd see stores with the doors open with nobody on the floor. And one piece that I wrote was, how can you convert what you do not see? One store I walked in with again, I'm obviously not going to say the brand, but with client advisors on the floor with their iPads, seemed all very structured. I walked in and walked out with not one person saying hello to me.
It's funny because I had dinner with somebody the other night who's in a similar situation to you, who said the same thing. She's doing a piece of work at the moment around improvement as well, and she went in to do a mystery shop, and somebody, it took 15 minutes for somebody to acknowledge her. 15 minutes.
But even when so those moments when I was served, it's boring. It was boring. It was literally like, okay, great, someone's come. I'm going to give you the chance. Make magic. And it was literally like, men's is over there, ladies is over. What are you looking for? I'm looking.
So they're just there to facilitate.
And I don't even. Sometimes it feels like they don't. Bless them. They don't realize what they're even doing. They're just regurgitating, these scripts. So show me who you are. I want to see who you are. Connect with me. So
would you say that is what emotive retail is, if you were to describe it in your own words?
It's reconnecting humanity with retail. Is my main. It's basically the main project is the book which I'm about to release, which is Retail is Human, the art of emotive retail. Then again, really working with my contacts with the brands, with let's say the client experience, auditing that in the store. It's almost like, I'd like to call it the next generation of mystery shopping, okay, but in an emotive way, not just a classic cycle and which everyone is doing, and then really going on towards a podcast, which again is I know so many people, so many people that can inspire other people, and I think this is also the time, like such as yourself, to bring these people on the stage and build this movement where a catalyst of these people that inspire the next generation that have worked in retail, but really what got them into retail,
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because most people that you speak to, or most people I speak to, say to me, "Oh, I never planned to go into retail." I definitely didn't.
Me neither.
I fell in love with it, but I never planned for it.
I fell into it. I fell into it, and then
I think
I'm still
everybody
here.
fell into it.
Yeah,
yeah, and we're still here.
But the stories fascinate me.
Yeah,
and I think it's again going back to knowing your team. It's if you're working with a team of people at a corporate level or on the floor, you need to know your team. Every single person is different.
Yeah.
Every single person's got, you take the best of what everyone's got, and the best teams are a mixture of people. I think quite often maybe in some companies, many people are the same. So the ideas are the same, communication is the same. If somebody's got ideas which are different, there's a pushback. Oh, that's different. We don't understand that.
But we need to encourage more of that now.
And we need to encourage creativity. We need to encourage these bouncing of ideas. Retail needs it. It really needs it.
So what excites you the most about the future of retail and the impact that emotive retail and what you're bringing to the table now is going to do for the industry? AI is going to be interesting. I'm a bit of a boomer, to be honest with you. So I'm trying to embrace it as much as I can. And I have to. Some things that I was proposed a few months back to have an AI copy of myself as a retail manager to be created. You don't have to visit the stores. We'll create that for you, and that person will. And I didn't pursue the opportunity or the discussion anymore, but it drove me crazy. And I was like, this is exactly the problem. So if I don't feel seen by my boss, if I'm on the floor, I don't feel seen. Is my manager on the floor observing me? Does he see what I may be, for example, a client advisor who struggles to do prospecting. Okay, maybe I've just done my first ever prospect. Did my manager see it? Probably not. These are the quick wins that you need a human to see to make an impact on us. These are the catalyst moments in the store team. That if one person does it, everyone is different. Everyone's got their challenges that they're trying to develop. You need strong leadership to see those, to be able to see those things, which is what we did. To see those things, congratulate, celebrate, encouragement, and then everyone's,
it's like an equalizer.
Yeah.
They're all coming up and they're becoming stronger as a team. AI, great, it's going to support us for sure. And I'm naive. AI. I know is going to do incredible things. Big data and things like this is going to make it easier, but you need that human element.
100%. But when you look back on your career, I mean, and we've done a lot of that today, what do you really want it to represent? I
mean, I'm proud. I'm proud in the sense of I like to think that I'm a connector of human. I'm a human connector. I need that in my life. And I know that I have had the pleasure of working with some incredible people that have impacted me, okay, that have changed the way that I do things and helped me grow as a person. But I've also been able to do that also with other people. So I've managed to, I know all the people that I'm in contact, and I'm in constant contact with them still. If they need advice or if they need career advice, but I'll never tell them what to do. I'll always, if I went, I would always put a seed in someone's head. Now you need to go away with it, but it's your journey, not mine.
But that's where you're a great leader. So I guess my final question here is, after everything you've experienced over the last almost 30 odd years, what does truly great retail ultimately come down to?
How you make a client feel. It's the emotion. It's not, for me, it's never been about the product. It's always been about the connection that a client advisor has with that client. Again, a client walking out that's still going, that was incredible. That was an incredible experience. I feel good. Everyone's stressed out. Everyone's has a difficult life. Everyone's got problems in their life. So, and the way that I used to teach a lot of clienteling is quite often the clients that they're not coming for the product, especially the wealthiest clients. It's not the product.
It's for the people.
It's how you make them feel. If you some of the best sales that I've ever seen happen, the clients didn't even know what they were buying. But there was so much trust with the client advisor. The client advisor would be choosing items, and that client had full trust with that person. Say, look, you choose for me. You are my trusted client advisor. I trust you what you're choosing. But I want to talk to you. I want to have a coffee with you.
It's I'm going to end this on something that I say probably in every podcast and every day of my working life, and that is that people buy from people, and you've just pretty much epitomized all of that.
Completely agree.
When are we expecting to have this book on our shelves?
Okay, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but it's pretty much finished. I would say within the next month.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So luckily we're in contact. So as soon as that is, we'd love to put that on our platform and to advertise it out, and really excited to read it. So I am so grateful. I know we've had a really long chat, but I'm so grateful for you sharing your journey, being so generous with the information that you've given, and there'll be people listening to this who'll be super inspired by your journey. So thank you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. I mean, I love to share. It's super, super important, and too many stories to share. There's not enough time.
We're going to go and carry on now.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.